back to my channel. Hope everyone is doing well. Happy April. Tonight I thought that I would sit down and go over all of the plans that I had made for myself for March, talk about the goals that I set and whether or not I accomplished them, share with you guys the stuff that I read, and give you a update on what I have been reading for the last week or so. So we'll start off with my book journal and check off the stuff that I finished for March. This was my little spread for March with all the green and pretty things. So let's go over my goals. My first reading event that I wanted to take part in was March of the Mammoths. And I did not do that. I did not read any mammoths. I didn't even start it. I just wasn't in the mood. So my plan was to read Sarum by Edward Rutherford, who I love and do definitely want to read that book, but just wasn't in the mood for it for March, so didn't get to it. And then secondly, I wanted to participate in March on the Moors, which is a Bronte themed reading event hosted by Melinda, and she's got lots of different prompts. Well, she had a few different prompts. Unfortunately, I did not write them down here, nor did I write them down before I started this video. So we'll just go through the books that I had planned to read. I wanted to read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte, which I did read and was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed it. Anne has kind of stepped into Emily's place for me lately as far as the favorite Bronte. And I think The Tenant might even be my favorite Bronte books. So that was kind of a huge shocker that I'm still slightly getting over, but it was a really great read. I'm really glad that I read it. Then I wanted to read 15 Wild Decembers by Karen Powell, which is just like a story about the Brontes, mostly about Emily, and I did not get to that one, mostly because it's set in December, I think. It's set in a more sort of cold and dreary time of year, and it got hot in Northwest Arkansas super fast, way early, and it just wasn't in the mood. So I'm saving it for next winter. Next up was Glass Town by Michael Bedard, and I did read that. That is this like little picture book, and I will talk about that here in a minute when I get done going through this journal with you. So I will check that one off. And then I also read Bronte Country by Glenda Leeming, which was a Bronte, like a photograph book with some commentary. So I did that one. And then finally, I wanted to read some of the poetry of Emily Bronte, and I did not one poem. Unless maybe in some of the other things that I was reading, some of her poetry was like in there, you know, like the picture book and the one with the photographs. But as for picking up the actual collection I have of her poetry, I didn't do that. Okay, and so the next reading event that I wanted to be a part of was the Reading the Classics that I do every month with Anne. And then I always couple that with my 50 by 50 challenge. Well, the book that I had picked for that was Utopia by Thomas More. However, I just couldn't get into it. Like, I will read it. Like, I was kind of into it, but I was really more in the mood for like just a different era, I guess, of a story, different kind of story. And so the prompt for reading the classics was actually to read a religious book. And I actually am going to count The Tenant of Wildfell Hall for that, because there was a ton of just good doctrine in there. The whole thing is excellent doctrine. And just the Christian example that the main character gave in that book was fantastic. Anne's voice as a Christian was very prevalent and very mature. And it wasn't just one of those things where it was kind of here and there. The biblical themes and biblical ways were woven all throughout this story in a very heavy but not heavy-handed sort of way. I mean, the main character could get preachy every now and then, but not nearly as bad as Agnes Grey. So it was okay. But it was definitely like a Christian fiction read for sure. So I'm actually going to check that one off and just write in here that I chose The Tenant instead. Okay, next reading challenge was Middle Grade March. And for Middle Grade March, I read Parvana's Journey by Deborah Ellis. Again, I will talk to you guys about that one in just a sec, but that was my plan, and I did read it. My miscellaneous maybe section, I put down The Juvenilia of Charlotte Bronte, which I did not get to, as well as the book Patrick by, is it Myra? Anyway, a book about St. Patrick, didn't get to. And then for my historical study, I've got Meetings with Remarkable Manuscripts, which I did read my chapter of that. And then also reading from In Search of the Dark Ages, which I did read from that. And then I had March Mystery Madness, which I had written that I wanted to read some more of the Miss Marple short stories. And I actually don't remember if I read that in February or March, but I did read one. So I'll have to go look and see if I can cross that one off. And then finally, reading some from Notes from Walnut Tree Farm. I did read a little bit from there. So for the most part, I did pretty good. I did a lot better than I did in February as far as making my goals. If you are interested in my April goals, I have a whole video on that. I'll put in the description box and up here and wherever. And then you guys can, hear what I have planned for the month of April. And then I have some goals in my book here that are not necessarily reading goals, but they are book related. Like for instance, visiting bookshops. And I did visit a new to me bookshop just a week or so ago. My favorite bookshop in the whole world, my bookshop down in Tawny Town that I love to go to, they actually changed locations. And so my husband and I went down there a couple of weeks ago to check it out. And I am gonna go back again and see how things are going. No, I want to be patient and give grace, but it's really hard because it's just not at all like it used to be. And so, yeah. But, I'm sure they'll get it all cute and homey and stuff in there, and we just have to go a few more times and it will feel like a, great, lovely, wonderful bookshop that we love. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But I did visit it, and it was one of my goals. So actually, I can mark that down as my first new to me bookshop that I visited in 2026. All right, so that's it for my reading journal. So let's look at the books that I have read since I last checked in with you. Some of these I won't actually go into. I'm just going to kind of show you. These 4 books I read for my preschool, little back to preschool thing that I'm doing. So I have made a video on all of that. I'll put that down in the description box. You guys can see if you're interested. I didn't want to go into too many details on these regular videos because I know that a lot of you didn't sign up to listen to preschool reviews, right? But some of you did. So anyway, but I did read Winnie the Pooh and The Adventures of Danny Meadow Mouse by Thornton Burgess. I read the Ferdinand story, Ferdinand Bull, and then The Little Engine That Could. So those were my little preschool reads. All right, and then for March of the Mammoths, I read this book called Parvana's Journey by Deborah Ellis. This is book 2 in a series of 4, I think there's 4. Basically about life for the people of Afghanistan. These are published, I think, starting just right after 9/11. I'm not exactly sure, but this one was 2002 and it's book 2. So, yeah. Whether or not 9/11 triggered the writing and publication of these books or whether they were already in the plan, I don't know. But basically, they tell the story about this young girl who has to pose as a man so that she can provide for her family so that she can work, right? Because the women weren't allowed to work and a lot of other things. And so in this story, she is on a journey to go and try to find her family. The rest of her family besides her have gone off to the north, I think, for reasons I'm not going to, I don't want to give too much away for the first book, but basically they've all gone away and she stayed behind for reasons and now is trying to go catch up with them. So she's just wandering across the desert, trying to find her family. She encounters just camps of people who have had their homes bombed out, their cities bombed out, and they're just living out in the desert. She talks about how, her finding food and things that she's had to do in order to find food. And there's a great story in here about community. And anyway, it was just a really wonderful story. For as heartbreaking and horrible as it is, it also has beautiful moments. And so there are, like I said, 2 or 3 books left in this series that I think I do want to go ahead and read. I was thinking that I might just save and read like one every March for middle grade March, but I don't know. I kind of just want to wrap up the story, especially in light of just other stuff, right, that's going on in that area right now. it's just something I want to be aware of. You know, I just kind of want to feel it for a minute because things are cozy here and things are good, and I have everything that I need and lots of things that I want. And I just feel like I want to feel it for a little bit and just get a tiny glimpse of what others are experiencing at this very moment in other parts of the world, and just have that compassion and just maybe be able to pray for them better if I understand them better. I don't know. But anyway, those are probably going to go on at least on my summer reading list, if not here pretty soon. All right, next up, this is an incredible book. I love this book so much. This is The Hopkins Manuscript by R.C. Sheriff. I heard about this from Miriam, and something compelled me just to order it. It's totally not my type of book, but it actually is. So I think I need to come to grips that I actually really do like happy dystopians. Like, it's dystopian, but it's all going to be good. It's all fine. Because every time I read one, I say this is not my type of book, but I adore it. So in this, I've just been waiting to talk to you guys about this book. So in this book was written like in the 1930s. Okay. And the whole thing probably can be seen as like an allegory of World War I and the, I don't know what they call the era in between. Like, I want to say like the Reconstruction era, but I don't know if that's the right term. But anyway, the time between World War I and II, and then World War II, the threat of World War II, right? This was written in the like 1937, I think is when it was published. So, you know, just everything that they could see on the horizon coming their way. So it can be seen as an allegory of that, but it's also so relevant to right now. It's just so applicable, relatable. Like, this book, it totally could have been written now. It even has just that modern voice to it. Many times I had to remind myself that I was reading something that's almost 100 years old, which just goes to show that, you know, man is predictable and history is cyclical, and there is nothing new under the sun, I guess, or under the moon. So in this book, the moon is falling to the earth. And the first is just a handful of people that know about it. The guy who is the main character of the story, his name is Edgar, and he is so obnoxious because he is so pretentious, and he is just obnoxious. He seems very like arrogant. He's kind of like a Mr. Collins sort of character, but even worse than that. But he is quite lovable. After you get to know him, like, you can't help but love him. So Edgar finds out, before lots of other people find out, that the moon is falling toward the earth. He is a member of the British Lunar Society, and so they are informed, and then pretty soon the rest of the world is informed. And people aren't doing a whole lot to take very, strong precautions, and neither is Edgar, other than kind of just gloating around about how he has this knowledge, right? And he knew, and blah, blah, blah. Well, eventually everybody gets kind of serious about it, like right before it's time for it to hit, and so they start digging bunkers. And they make this big plan to go into the bunkers. And the last minute, Edgar decides not to go into the bunker. He stays in his home as the moon does fall. The aftermath finds that it was probably a good idea for him not to go into the bunker. And he is picking up the pieces along with some neighbors that also happened to survive. And so he is basically part of a small group of people who are rebuilding society. It is fun and funny and also a kind of terrifying, but if you are a conspiracy theorist, this book has like everything. It has the mud floods. It has the secret government agendas. It's got the controlled demolitions. It's got the, like Great Reset sort of things. It's got all of those things, plus a whole lot more. If you're a prepper, you're gonna love this one. If you're along any of those lines, this is a fantastic book. But there was just so much in here. As you can see, I have tabbed it all over the place. There was a lot of great quotes. And I just so many times marked how obnoxious he was. At this one, it says, he was reminding me of Mrs. McCarthy on Father Brown, or of Hyacinth Bouquet from Keeping Up Appearances. Like, at some point, the world is literally like going to be changed forever and ever and ever. And he's like gloating about how he has 10 times more snowdrops than his ignorant neighbor does. I don't know. It's just funny. At the time of the writing of this book, the British Empire was still very much a thing. And I think that this is actually maybe an accidental, fantastic time capsule of those mentalities that, I don't know, that we tend to think that, you know, people who aren't British tend to think of when we think of like old England, and just that, I don't know, I don't want to offend any of my British friends, but it's just a time capsule of a way of thinking, especially for kind of the aristocracy, that I don't see anymore. And that probably was, you know, accidental, because I have a feeling that the guy who wrote this, like, he was sort of making fun of that sort of, you know, clueless mentality that the very, very rich, you know, the rich and entitled tend to have, and they just don't get like what the common person goes through, right? He was kind of making fun of that with this character, but it was like all fine. It was all just kind of fine. And anyway, I think that mentality very quickly disappeared after the Second War, and with it a lot of innocence, and that's just too bad. But great book. I would recommend this to anybody. Yeah, Hopkins manuscript. Fantastic story. Okay, and then I read Glass Town. This is basically, it's just a picture book. It tells a story, kind of. I don't know. It tells a really hopping around sort of story about the little snippets of the Bronte children's lives, and all from Charlotte's perspective, of course. And I just didn't get a lot out of the story. And if you go on Goodreads, most people were just kind of like, the story was sort of bland, but the illustrations are great. And that's pretty much it. Like, the illustrations are beautiful, right? But the story is just kind of, it's definitely not something that would keep the attention of a child. If you know, like, details about the Brontes and Bronte sisters and where they live and that kind of stuff, then maybe the story would be, you know, you'd be into it. But I know a lot about the Brontes and where they live and who they were and what they did, and I was just kind of like, meh. It's not a story written for children, I would not say at all. But the paintings in it, like, you know, they're really beautiful. And I found when I went into Goodreads to leave my review on this that I actually did read this in February of 2022. And I did not remember reading this at all. And it's funny because my review was like exactly what I was going to write. So my mind didn't change in that time, but I did not remember reading this. But I think that was just a couple of weeks after I lost my dad. And so I think, you know, I probably don't remember a whole lot at all from that time. So that's probably why. But it'll go on my shelf with my Bronte collection. But I don't know if I will ever read this again. Not anytime soon, for sure. All right. And then I think it was it last night? I think it was last night. I read Little Gray Rabbits Washing Day by Allison Utley. This is such a cute story. It really was. It was about this gypsy has come to the rabbit's house, and the gypsy is trying to sell them, you know, her stuff. I got really hung up though thinking about the term gypsy, because I've always thought that a gypsy was somebody who's from Egypt. Like, I thought it was a slang for, you know, an Egyptian person or whatever. Like, I mean, I know what a gypsy is, but like what they vocation wise, but I didn't understand. I always thought like their culture was from Egypt, and it was just short, like a gypsy, Egypt, right? But then when I look it up, it said that it was like a term for a Romani person. So I was like, oh, Romania. They're from Romania. They're Romani. But then I looked up Romani and it said they're from India. And now I'm just so confused. Like, all these false cognates are just not okay. Which I didn't realize that people from India were called Romani. And I'm just, somebody make this make sense to me in the comments. And I hope that I'm not being offensive or derogatory at all. If any of those terms are not okay. But I just, I don't know. I thought gypsies were people who traveled around, like Western Europe and sold stuff and were kind of mysterious and always beautiful with long, beautiful curly hair and lots of beads. So anyway, I did enjoy the story for sure. The next question that I had was, one of the characters' name is Moldy Warp. And I was like, what is a moldy warp? So I looked it up, and a mold warp is like an old English word for a mole. So I was like, oh, Okay, that works. That's me learning new stuff one preschool storybook at a time. But loved my Alice and Nutley book. Now I've read all the ones that I have. I need to get some more. Actually, I do have one of her books that I think is for adults about her childhood. I might have to dig that out. All right, lastly, this is for you, Miriam. I would like you to know that I read and adored Wormwood Abbey. So, if you've been around for, I don't know, not even 2 months, a while back, earlier this year, this winter, I tried Wormwood Abbey because how can you not? The cover is so cute, and I had heard such great things about this story, mostly from Miriam, who loves the story. And so I was like, oh, well, I like almost everything she reads. Like, her and I read a lot of the same things and have a lot of the same ideas about things that we read. And I started it, and I had like, I must have been in a mood because I had all these complaints. I had all these criticisms. I was like, rah, rah, rah. You guys saw that video, and I just had to say it just wasn't for me. So I thought that I had listed it on Pango Books. So just gone, never to be seen again, whatever. Well, then Miriam just kept recommending it. And every time she'd talk about it, like the sparkle in her eye, something just made me think, oh, really, maybe I should try it again. I really should probably try it. And so I went looking. I went to go take it off my Pango, like list of books for sale, and it wasn't there. And I realized it was still in my closet, and I had just thrown it in my Pango bag, but I didn't actually list it. Isn't that just so serendipitous? So pull it out, and I started reading it, and I did not stop until I was done. I stopped, actually I did stop about page 60 to go onto Amazon and order book 2. Which will be here tomorrow, which is not quick enough. So I think I might actually go on and order book 3 so that it will come like by next week so that I can just kind of skip, so I can just move quickly through the series. I loved it. This is the first book I've ever read that's like a fantasy with dragons. Like, that is just not my style. I guess what is happening to me, guys? I'm reading things that are just not what I've normally enjoyed, but I loved it. There is a great nod to lots of different books in here. However, there's no spoilers, and isn't that nice? I appreciate that so much. The quote at the very beginning, I love. This is from G.K. Chesterton, and it says, "I will sit still and let the marvels and the adventures settle on me like flies. There are plenty of them, I assure you. The world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder." That just gives me some chills. There's a couple other places that I marked in here, just kind of character mentalities. At one point, she says, "Perhaps it was simply easier to let people conjure up their own version of me than to explain who I really was." I was like, yeah, that's relatable. This other one, "Laughter is not merely a pleasure, but a service to others." Isn't that beautiful? Like, I don't know. I just loved this. I really, really did. Did I tell you what it's about? I don't think I did. So basically, this girl's family it's their turn to inherit the castle. The previous owner of the castle, which is her uncle, has passed away. He's left 3 daughters behind, and so the castle is entailed. It goes to the next male, which is her father. He is a curate in their district, and he gets leave to go up there and kind of get things in order. So he takes his whole family, which is him, his wife, her, Edith, and her little brother, who's like 11. When they get up there, Edith is kind of slow to make relationship with her cousins, but eventually they do. And there is a secret to this castle, this estate, and Edith is very quickly let in on it. And then there's kind of a mission for this family as well. And so by the end of the story, Edith has joined in on the mission of this family. She is all in. She has made a little friend, it is very much a book that is setting the stage for things to come. I mean, there is a little thing in here that needs to be resolved. So there's a short kind of adventure / mystery sort of thing. But for the most part, this is a setting the stage story. So it very much makes you want to grab the next book because lots of things are set up for the future of this family, and you don't really get into any of that until, I'm assuming, the next book, but you don't get into it in this one. But I really loved it. I'm really in. I'm just all in for these characters, and I really want to know how their story goes. So looking forward to reading book number 2. So that is where I'm at. It's been a good 2 days of reading for April. I really have a lot of hope for April to be a really fun, cozy, inspiring, happy reading month. I've got a lot of happy books here on my cart, and it's just going great. I'm just excited about the things that are on my list. I don't feel bogged down by anything. And so, yeah, I'm just really looking forward to savoring this spring season. Hopefully we don't get drowned or blown away because it's usually our season of floods and tornadoes. Hopefully, it's peaceful and a little bit of rain without a lot of chaos. So, but anyway, tell me about your April. What are your plans? And what are you looking forward to this month, even if it's not book related? I'd love to hear from you guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are staying positive. There is a lot of crazy going on in our world right now, I know, and most of it we can do nothing about, but the one thing we can do is be spiritually prepared. And so I would encourage you guys, if you are concerned, if you are worrying, if things are hard and you're just struggling mentally, emotionally, and even financially, because I feel like that's going to be the biggest impact on us here in the US anyway right now. Maybe focus on filling up your spiritual cup, right? Stay close to the Father, staying close to his word, trusting in our Messiah to carry us through and help us to walk through this crazy time with peace and with joy and with hope. We can prepare in other ways to an extent, but our spiritual preparation can go as far as we want it to. So I just want to encourage you with that, you guys, that the Father is fully aware of everything that is going on, and he does have a plan. And he, along with his Son and the Holy Spirit, are our comfort and help and hope. All right, guys, I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.